Hi, I'm Joe Roth. At New Jersey Sharing Network, we're committed to saving and enhancing people's lives through organ and tissue donation and informing people about our life-saving mission. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Fedway Associates, RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, Valley Bank, United Airlines, Berkeley College, and by the Fidelco Group. Promotional support provided by NorthJersey.com and Local IQ, part of the USA Today network, and by BestOfNJ.com, all New Jersey in one place.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. I'm laughing here at the Tisch WNET studio because my good friend and longtime colleague, Ernie Anastos.
Steve.
He needs no introduction. He's the anchor at Fox 5 New York, 6 p.m. every night. Ernie, tell folks, by the way, every night at 6 o'clock, what happens on Fox 5?
What we try to do is we keep it positive. I mean, you know, we deal with news of the day. This is a format that I worked on with my news director, Byron Harmon. And I said, you know what? For years I've been on the air, and especially 11 o'clock. And I'd come on and say good evening, and then proceed to tell them why it's not.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Let's kind of reverse that a little bit, okay? Let's deal with news of the day, but also bring in more positive stories, okay? If there is a problem, let's find a solution. Let's find out what people are doing to make it better.
Right.
So concept is, you know, news, information, but uplifting, positive, let people know what's going on that's positive.
Is it harder to do that, Ernie, in the age of divisive polarization?
Can be.
Are you for Trump, against Trump? Nobody wants to talk. Nobody's open to any other point of view. And there's a lot of nastiness.
No,
and
Steve,
that's just,
you
I've
know
known you
that.
20 years plus.
Yeah.
That's not you.
Right. No, it's not. But you know what? But it's reality. And you know, you deal with this every day as well. I mean, there's a difficult mood out there. I'm uncomfortable many times with the fact that, you know, we have such divisiveness. And I'm looking for ways to be able to bring people together. Hard to do because social media plays a major role. We have so many outlets, so many television channels. We have satellite, we've got internet, we've got everything. And they're all clashing. And people are giving their opinions. And I'll defend, you know, the right of speech anywhere.
Right.
And I think it's good, but I think we have to be very careful with it because we have to be responsible as journalists. But there are citizen journalists out there, too. And they don't really understand it to say, wait a minute, if I say something, if I give my opinion, if I do something, that can influence people. And you know, I could get off on this whole thing about bullying and so forth. I'm certainly not in favor of that. In fact, I produced a videotape. Yeah.
See, Ernie's so
children.
good. He's not only, I'm supposed to be hosting the show, he just set up the clip. Because he knows what's coming.
Yeah.
This is help us out. This is a music video that you and your team put together. Anti-violence, anti-bullying?
Yeah, basically it's, yes, anti-violence and bringing us together. Let's all put away the hatred and work as one.
What a novel idea. Let's take a look at the clip from Ernie and his team.
Hard to believe it. Our cities, the world, all of us living with tragic violence.
Seems that love has gone away. There's so much hatred in this world today. I'm so afraid of what's to come. Let's get together and work as one.
We can learn something from children. Let's heal the divide with respect and our deeper understanding of one another. It's time to stop the violence.
What's been the reaction, my friend?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I really felt this. I mean, listen, we can go on with Newtown, Connecticut, Parkland, Florida, just recently outside of Denver. You know, the violence is there, and we've seen it over and over again. And I sat down with a guy named Hassan Johnson. He's a producer here in New York and also in LA. He's worked with J-Lo and a lot of people. And I said, Hassan, I want you to write the music for me. I'm going to write the lyrics, and I'm going to put it together. And we did. And I ran this on the air. And the idea came to me, especially when I look around and I see children walking to school in the morning. You know how they hold that rope, that little yellow cord, and I'm saying, look at these kids, you know, they're so innocent and pure, and they deserve, you know, a world that they can inherit that's going to be better, better than what we have. And so I just thought about it, and I said, you know what, we have to stop this, because, you know, when I think about, like, recently what happened outside of Denver, you know, this 12-year-old kid, I was reading his story, and here he is in a school where they're shooting, and he doesn't know what's going on, and he reaches for this bat that he had, and he said, quote, he said, if I'm going to go down fighting. 12-year-old child.
12 years old.
Yeah, I mean, this is the world that we're living in, and I said, you know what, we can work at it. If we teach our children, particularly in our school system and at home, the home, as you know, Steve, that's the center. We have to be able to teach our children respect, to love one another, and we have to do something about mental health. I think that's a major problem in our country. Mental health. Look, when you start reading stories about people who go off and do things, it always turns out that there is some mental problem. And we need to be able to work with that in our school systems. Our government's got to get involved. We need to be able to talk about it openly and have classes about it. People have, you know, whatever their problems are stored up, but they don't have outlets for it. And then there's that whole copycat thing. You know, we put things on the news, again, going back to what we do. You put something on the air and someone says, ooh, you know what? We need to reward good behavior, not bad behavior.
You know, I'm curious about this. You mentioned Byron Harmon.
Yeah.
You're the top guy over there. And he's a great guy, and I've known him a long time. But I'm curious, because you are so positive, because you have a certain philosophy and attitude, I was asking you how you stay relevant and engaged in the business for more than a couple of years, and you said positive attitude.
Yeah.
To what degree do you get pushback from the executives in charge who say, Ernie, look, we're in the news business, and a lot of the news is negative, it is bad, but you're saying, look, okay, we'll analyze it, we'll look at it, but we need to see the glass as half full. Push back on that?
Well, we're on the same page.
You are?
Yeah, absolutely. No, we know that the news has to be covered. We need to be able to get the stories out there, cover them fairly, honestly. But we also have to be able to look for other stories that we can put on the air to give us the balance. And they're all for that. No one's talking about, you know, editing out these stories and saying, you know, we're not going to cover this. We're not doing that. We're saying, let's cover what has to be done. Let's inform the public. But let's also look for stories that can be done that kind of creates, like I said, the balance.
Before I let you in, I'm curious about this. Go back to the attitude thing.
Attitude,
because you are here in New York, a rough, tough city. With heart.
40 years. I just celebrated my 40th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Started in 1978.
Tell folks, did you start at ABC?
ABC, yeah.
Started at ABC, and Ernie and I had a short stint together.
News Talk Television, we were doing something.
Now defunct network we're over on 33rd Street. Over on the west side.
8th Avenue, somewhere in there,
and it was News Talk Television.
Right.
The lineup we had was crazy.
I know. Phil Donahue,
Rush Limbaugh, the whole bit, and somehow I got in there.
You were in
late
there,
night. But Ernie and I used to work out of this building, and I thought, Ernie goes from that to go. You went to Fox after that?
Yes. Yes. No.
Because you're at CBS.
CBS. Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the rejection, but the ups and downs. Dr. Spencer Johnson wrote a wonderful book called Peaks and Valleys. The peaks and valleys of your career. How do you stay? How have you stayed? Trust me, there's a question here. So positive through all that.
Because overall, I always look at the big picture, and I'm saying the big picture is very good. I was very happy at ABC. I had a great time there. I was there for like 12 years. Jim Jensen was leaving Channel 2. He was an icon, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. ABC understood. I went there. I enjoyed it. And then, you know, there was an opening again. John Rowland was leaving.
Over at Fox.
It's amazing. 30 years John Rowland was there, so I went there. But in between, I did a few things. I bought some radio stations. I got involved in radio
You wrote a wonderful children's book called?
Yeah, children's books. Twixt Teens, Yesterday and Today, and also a children's book for young people, The Adventures of a TV Reporter. I diversified a little bit, and I grew from that. See, to me, it's very important. The life you have is not the only life you've lived. You have to be able to think of yourself as a whole person. You try something, you learn, you grow, and you ask me about positive attitude, family, home, and I will say this, and I'll say it publicly, spirituality.
Yes.
And I don't lock into any particular faith. Maybe there's no faith, but you have to believe in something. And to me, there is a creator, and it's all about love.
Ernie Anastos. He's an inspiration to all of us.
Thank you. You are too, man. You do great work, by the way.
try.
I have to say that publicly. Steve, I watch you. You've been around a long time, but what you do every day is fantastic. You are a positive figure as well.
Thank you, Ernie. It's about you. Check him out every night, Fox 5, 6 o'clock. Ernie Anastos, a good friend, always
Thank
a
you,
friend of
Steve.
public broadcasting.
God bless.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you, my
Take
friend.
care.
Okay.
Stay with us. This is one-on-one from the Tisch. WNET studio in the heart of Lincoln Center. Be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
It wasn't about standing still and becoming safe. But I've always been the way I am, been like this all my life. If anybody wants to keep creating, they have to be about change.
It's all about Miles Davis. And this is Stanley Nelson, the director of an incredibly interesting film. Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool, an award-winning, he is in fact award-winning documentary filmmaker. Good to see you, Stanley.
Good to see you.
So, I remember the first time I heard 7 Steps from Heaven, right? Listened to it years back. So, wow, I started reading about Miles Davis. Why is he such an incredibly complicated, fascinating person to make a film about?
I think besides Miles being someone who spanned, so many years of jazz, I mean, Miles comes to New York in 1944 and starts playing with Charlie Parker. He ends up in the 80s with playing fusion, with Keith Jarrett and Chick Corea and Wayne Shorter and all those people come through Miles. So Miles ran through so many eras at such a high degree of excellence. As Miles says, he changed jazz, 5 or 6 times. There's nobody like Miles in terms of just musicianship and what he gave to jazz and what he gave to music. No, nobody. But also Miles is so complicated, and that's what makes him so interesting. He made such beautiful music, such tender music, 7 Steps to Heaven, of course, Kind of Blue, that whole album is so just, a classic.
I'm thinking about the cover of it right now. It's a blue cover. I'm just thinking about it right now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows, and it's just a beautiful album, but Miles was so complicated and hard to get along with.
Was he nasty?
And he was nasty. He was nasty, and for so many
On stage,
people.
I'm sorry for interrupting. Both?
No. Musicians, all the musicians that played with Miles loved him. They loved him. I mean, and he could be mean to musicians, but once you were kind of in his band, in his circle, you were family. And so those people really loved him. But to his family, to the people who loved him, to the women who loved him, and to the women who I truly believe he loved, he was not nice.
Not. And you decided to, and by the way, you have this long history. Remind folks of some of the work that you have done, the iconic work you've done, particularly around the African-American community, culture, and artists. Go ahead.
Yeah, we just did a film that was on PBS called Boss, The Black Experience in Business. Before that, we did a film called Tell Them We Are Rising about HBCUs. Before that, The Black Panthers, Vanguard of the Revolution, Emmett Till, Murder of Emmett Till. Freedom Riders, Freedom Summer, a bunch.
Yeah. So go back, Miles Davis. When most people hear about Miles Davis, who even know who he is, they say, oh, yeah, that's the guy that turned his back on the audience.
Yeah.
But that represented something much deeper than just some thing he did.
Right. We have a great story in the film because a lot of people don't know Miles Davis, around 1956 or so, he had an operation on his throat. And the doctor told Miles, you can't talk for 10 days. After a few days, Miles got mad at somebody, started screaming and yelling at him and cursing him out. And he then got this voice that was like that. And it stayed like that for the rest of his life. And this woman who was there right after it happened said that, Miles came on stage, he starts to play, he starts to talk, he starts to introduce the song, and the audience starts to laugh. And he looked at them, he looked really funny. He had this look on his face, and he just walked off stage and left. So that's one story. There's other stories that Miles tells about, that I'm communicating with the band. When I turn my back, I'm communicating with the band. As he said, Leonard Bernstein doesn't face the audience.
That's right.
And conduct. Leonard Bernstein faces the band, and I am, that's what I'm doing.
Was he angry? Sorry for interrupting. Was he angry at his audience sometimes?
No, I don't think he was angry at his audience. I think that Miles came out, and we say all this in the film. Miles comes out in 1944. He comes to New York at the beginning of from East St. Louis, and I should say that Miles comes from East St. Louis.
Describe that. You say East St. Louis, people go, oh yeah, Cardinals? No, not the Cardinals.
No, East St. Louis was the ghetto. East St. Louis was, a black community. But Miles was rich in terms of African Americans. His father was a dentist. As someone says, his family at one point was the second richest black family in Illinois.
Middle class?
They were beyond upper middle class. His father was a dentist. Miles they had a farm outside of town with horses. Miles grew up riding horses. That's who Miles was. But he couldn't get away from the racism, the segregation, the discrimination that was part of the life for a black man in East St. Louis. And so Miles, starts out with this chip on his shoulder.
So interesting. When I think about Miles Davis, and others do, commercial success versus being the artist, the true artist that he was, along with people like Charlie Parker, how much was commercial success important to a Miles Davis?
I think that Miles was one of those people, and they're very rare, who can combine artistic success and commercial success, and both of them are part of who he was. I mean, Miles Davis loved the lifestyle that became his. I mean, Miles was famous for the beautiful women, for the fast cars.
Did he make big money?
For the clothes. Yeah, Miles made big money.
He did.
Miles signs with Columbia in 1956, and basically they give him carte blanche, and he's with Columbia for over 20 years, and he is up there. He's like a pop artist to them. He is their star, and he's making big money. He's on a salary, and so that allows him to do so. So here's the thing.
Sure.
That I love about Miles. Miles had 2 jobs in his life. He was a newspaper boy for a couple of weeks, and he was a musician.
Wow.
He never had another job. That was Miles.
He just worked.
He just worked at music.
Drugs a part of it?
Drugs were a part of it.
How big?
They're a big part of his life, and we talk about that in the film. It's warts and all in the film, and that's who Miles was. Miles had an incredible experience in 1949. He goes to Paris, he goes to France, and he sees a whole different lifestyle. It's something it's very different, for him as a black man.
Excuse me, black men, mostly men there. Blacks were treated differently.
Yeah,
very different.
He sees for the first time that he's kind of celebrated, and also jazz is celebrated in a different way. So he's hanging out with Picasso. He's hanging out with the stars there, and as an equal. And he comes back here after being begged by Kenny Clark, the drummer in his group. Kenny Clark says, "I'm not going back to the U.S."
They loved it that much.
I'm staying. He stays. Miles also falls in love with a beautiful artist there, Juliet Greco, and they have this huge romance. He comes. She begs him to stay, and he doesn't. He comes back to the States and spirals into a depression and starts using heroin, and has a few years where he is just totally wiped out on heroin.
I'm hoping that our audience can appreciate and understand the importance of Miles Davis, and that's why this film is so important. By the way, tonight, as we do this program, but it'll be seen after, at the Montclair Film Festival, you are going to be at the Wellmont Theater. You're doing a Q&A right after you show the film. But can I do this? Firelight Media and Documentary Lab, put that in context, because it's an important part of the conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the important things that I do at this point in my life is we have what we call the Firelight. That's my company, Firelight Media.
Yes.
We have a Firelight Documentary Lab, and we work with filmmakers of color. We've been going on for 10 years. We have 80 graduates, and we work with them and mentor them to help them get their film made, done, and on the air.
Why is that so important here?
Well, these are feature-length documentary films, and it's really important to me because when I was growing up, when I was coming out there in the film world, there were government programs. WNET had a program.
That's right.
To get people involved in film, and those have all gone away. And so, one of the things that we try to do is institutionalize that again. And we work with a lot of other filmmakers, veteran filmmakers like myself to provide mentorship to other younger filmmakers making their first or second film. And we've been hugely successful. We won a special jury prize for our film, Always in Season, by Jackie Olive at Sundance this year.
We love what you do.
Yeah, we had opening night film a couple of years ago. So, we're just chugging away.
You were born to do this, not just be a filmmaker, but to mentor and teach others. And I want to thank you for joining us. Stanley Nelson, director of a film that has to be seen, Miles Davis, Birth of the Cool. I'm going to try to head back to Montclair and see it tonight at the Montclair Film Festival. An award-winning documentary filmmaker. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Stanley.
Thanks. Great to see you again.
You have an open invitation here. This is the Tisch WNET studio. We'll be right back right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Come on now, keep on dreaming.
Wow. Pretty Woman, the musical, and right there we see Renée Marino, back by popular demand. She's a dance captain, ensemble member, assistant to the choreographer. Pretty Woman, the musical at the Nederlander Theater on 44th Street. Do you know, people know you for so many things, for the iconic role in Jersey Boys. You played
Mary Delgado.
great stuff in the film and, of course, in the show.
Yes.
But they also know you because at the end of One-on-One, you
What do we
are...
do? Yeah, baby.
That's that girl. I know that girl.
I know that hand. I know that girl.
Tell me about this.
This is a dream come true. It was my favorite movie forever, and I was in California at the time, and I found out that they were doing a Broadway musical. And it just happened to be that it was the same time I was moving back to New York, and I was like, well, gotta do it. And at that point, Steve, I was like, okay, I'm moving back to New York. I'm gonna start fresh. So I had no agent, no manager, nothing. And I went to an audition on my own.
Really?
That's it. You gotta do what you gotta do. And I booked the workshop of the show, and that was incredible. That was over a year and a half ago. And I had never worked with Jerry Mitchell, our director, who I was always such a big fan of. And then here I am. We did the workshop. They asked me to join the Broadway cast and to also be dance captain, which was such an honor.
Both. Sorry for interrupting you. You're in the cast,
yes,
but you're also in management.
Yeah,
Describe
and that's the perfect way to describe it. I'm kind of doing the best of both worlds, and for me, this is great because I've never done this before. So I'm on stage 8 shows a week doing the show, but I also have to have eyes in the back of my head because I'm the dance captain. So my job is to maintain the integrity of the choreography, you know, make sure everyone's doing what they are supposed to be doing according to what Jerry wanted, according to his vision. And yeah, I helped to run auditions for the show. So it's great. I mean, Steve, there is no better way to learn the business than to be sitting behind the table as opposed to in front of it when I'm the one auditioning. So it has been the most incredible experience.
You're learning every aspect of the business.
Every aspect.
Can we do a Pretty Strong Woman?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about it. Do we have any video of it? Can you describe it? What is it?
Okay, so hashtag Pretty Strong Women is a workout series that I created.
I'm looking at it. Put it online. Go ahead. I'm looking up.
Yeah.
You got to be a pretty strong woman.
That's it.
Talk about it.
So I started it because when I started doing this show, it had become so different than from 5 years ago when I was on Broadway. Single girl, living in Midtown Manhattan. Now I'm a married woman. I have a home, a dog, a commute. So I was like,
Jersey.
From Jersey, baby.
You got it. You're
always.
a Jersey girl at the core, but go ahead.
Through and through. So I had to figure out a way to still be able to work out, balance my life, and just make it all happen. So I started doing these short little 20-minute workouts from YouTube. And then I was like, you know, I'm gonna start making my own little multitasker moves that I could just do before I leave the house, that gets me ready, makes me feel good before I leave for the show. And Steve, I started doing it, and I realized I felt so good just doing these short little workouts that incorporate more than one muscle at a time. And I decided to share it on my Instagram stories.
So, Sonia, can we put it up so people can find
at Renee Marino Official, yeah. And I'm also going to be adding it to YouTube to make YouTube videos because I have so many followers and fans who are just in love with it. It's been such a positive response. I just did an April challenge where I had my fans film themselves doing the move, and the person who sent the most videos and did it every day won a prize.
Wow.
And it was just the best. And I just got a message just before I came here, someone saying like, oh my God, I'm having my second child, and I just needed something that I could do that makes me feel good, that's not too much, so thank you for this. And I was like, this is what I do it for.
You are an entrepreneur.
Thank you.
You are.
Thank you.
And you're talented, but you're also diversifying yourself, right?
Yeah,
A few seconds left, go ahead.
I find it most important to just be well-rounded in life, and if I could help other people with what I'm doing, that's what matters most.
We wish you nothing but the best, and whatever the
Thank
next
you.
chapter is going to bring in your life. And if you ever want to check out Renee, go to everything she talked about, but also at the end of, you see some terrific people at one-on-one. At the end, you'll always see this. And scene. See you next time. Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Fedway Associates, RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Sharing Network, Valley Bank, United Airlines, Berkeley College, and by the Fidelco Group. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
You may not have heard of TAVR. Raj and Sandhya have. It's the minimally invasive alternative to open heart valve replacement. RWJ Barnabas Health is New Jersey's leading TAVR provider, and we continue to perfect it. Patients are often back to their lives in just a few days. Innovative valve replacement surgery, because you can't be replaced. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.